Hey guys, sorry for once more taking a bit of a hiatus from the usual shenanigans, but it'd be like that when going back to school. Gotta get into a groove first, but I thought I'd put up a quick review, especially considering this will probably be the main topic of discussion for the first quarter for a lot of people. So yeah, I listened to Hardy's The Mockingbird and the Crow, and I have some thoughts. Now, I think long-term viewers will know I'm not the biggest Hardy fan out there. It's kind of a love and hate relationship with him. When this guy makes a stinker, I'll call it out for its poor quality. I'm not really prone to absolutely loving everything an artist does, even for the guy this channel uses as a persona. And the same goes in the opposite direction, because when Hardy makes something that lands, it really lands. I'm still mostly positive on a rock, and I think it was a pretty good record, which shifted perspective in society's viewing of redneck culture. Now for this album, I had no idea how to feel going in. It was once more that hit or miss nature with the pre-releases. Sold Out was very cringe, and didn't really offer any near amount of enjoyment I've gotten from the more aggressive Hardy tracks. But then, Wait in the Truck was this super cool, dark, and gritty murder ballad that reminded me of why Hardy is held up as one of the more talented mainstream songwriters. Jack was good too, even if it was a blatant ripoff of Me and Jack by John Party. But then he dropped the 3 tracks which confused me even more. Truck Bed was mostly ass and felt like the result if you involved Walker Hayes in the making of it. Here Lies Country Music I won't get into yet because there's a lot to say about that one. But then we have The Mockingbird and the Crow, which... yeah, this is the best song Hardy has ever done on every level, and even coming out of this record, I still think it's his best song to date. You see what I mean? All of the pre-releases have been so inconsistent, ranging from bad to average to super great. I normally can pin down what an album will be like beforehand, but shockingly, not for this one. I was treading uncharted territory. As for the album itself, I don't really know how to feel about it, even after listening to it 4 times. I'll go over what I liked first, of course. For one thing, it's a double album that actually has a reason to be a double album. It's showing 2 shades of Hardy, the quote-unquote countryside with more sentimentality, and I think as far as tone goes, the contrast is well defined, and it's a shorter double album that doesn't overstay its welcome. And in a world of non-stop albums going beyond the length of 20 tracks, I can appreciate a short one. As for the best songs, on The Mockingbird it's a bit more scattered than anticipated. Wait in the Truck, as I said before, is really great. I enjoyed No I in Country and its whole crux in the final leg of the chorus. And Screen for sure will be the anthem of this record and delivers passion I haven't really seen from Hardy in so long. Happy is another one I really enjoyed and it's beautifully bittersweet. Acoustic Hardy still hasn't aged poorly to this day, which is nice to see. The Crow, on the other hand, certainly grabbed my attention a lot more. 3006 is a punk song I surprisingly enjoyed, and it's one of Hardy's more authentic songs, and it's nice to see this more than his more tiring works. Radio Song was pretty meta and went over the top in the best way possible. And I know it's been hit or miss for people, but I really enjoyed the Redneck song, and I think it's a fitting conclusion for the record. In the end, I prefer overtly rock Hardy over rock but for some reason country Hardy. It feels like he's more comfortable and in his element making these aggressive songs rather than these ones forced to be softer for executive appeal. The whole theme of individuality for himself is a unique one at that. Not many artists are allowed to be self-aware of who they are, so to have someone like that I think does very good things for the industry at large. In terms of musicality, a majority of the time I enjoyed myself with this, as well as being the most meta and self-aware Hardy has ever been. But that's not to say this record is a smooth ride. It's anything but that. For one thing, the Mockingbird album as a whole, to put it mildly, is very average. So many of these songs just blend into each other and don't offer anything of true value. Beer and Red especially are nothing but blah frat boy songs you could find anywhere and don't nearly express as much personality as the better tracks on here. And they feel like what I feared this album was going to be. Nothing but burnout of the same tiresome trends Hardy has gone on with his co-writes for others and his Hixtape records. Many of them just sound so samey and play for this pseudo small town suburban sound that's incredibly bland. Its pacing in general is very mediocre, which is surprising because the length between the two is symmetrical, but the Crow album, even with the bad songs, flowed quite naturally, while the Mockingbird, it felt like a loop that didn't know when to end. These aren't bad songs per se, just incredibly average, and something I've seen Hardy do over and over again. The only songs I actively disliked were on the Crow record. being Sold Out and Truck Bed, which just sound really bad and the kind of junk Joey Moy was doing over a decade ago. And now we have to get into the themes of this record. Whoo boy. Now, when I said the themes of this album run well earlier, I meant to put a major asterisk on that. Because they run well on paper, with each individual song being meta in a vacuum. When you combine every idea Hardy tries to express, it just doesn't work. It's constant flip-flopping on stances for Hardy trying to be edgy and daring, saying things like he needs steel guitar to succeed on radio, even though he's never had that on a song until now and he's been doing pretty well without it. Saying things like you aren't allowed to express pride, even though that's his entire brand and he and his label profits off of it. Trying to say radio is stupid, which it is. No one is saying it isn't. He wants so badly to take a stance of standing up for the genre and criticize its problems, which is admirable, sure, except none of the things he's taking a stand about apply to him or really anyone on radio. As well as take the time to consider all the shitty things he's calling out he had a hand in. Rolex on a redneck? That's Hardy. I don't know about you, that's Hardy. Hicks Tape 2? Mostly Hardy. And sure, Hardy brings this up in The Mockingbird and the Crow, which after this whole thought process is still freaking great. His complaining and criticism acts like it comes from somewhere distant from these problems, but you can't just attack issues you yourself contribute and profit from. It's like if you were an activist and profited from what you oppose. Now you're probably gonna tell me, he's a Mockingbird, he's acknowledging he makes trash music, so it isn't a problem. Listen to yourself when you say that. How is complaining about issues and then continuing to make shitty songs going to change anything? The entire stance accomplishes nothing because of that. Everything on the Crow album just fails to hold thematic weight due to the hypocritical nature that happens in clashing with the Mockingbird record. This isn't contrast, it's contradictory. Now I know what you're thinking, come on man, it's such a fun, cool album, you're thinking about it way too much. And I'll give you credit there, this is still such a cool album and I think it breathes new life into Hardy musically. I believed he wasn't a good artist before due to the tiresome and repetitive nature of Hicks Tape, but this more aggressive and dark vision he seems to be taking holds incredible promise, and I hope a fully fledged rock album can manifest later down the line. However, this album wants its criticisms to be taken seriously and have its themes on the industry be acknowledged, but it contradicts itself so often it doesn't land particularly well. It was a self-aware critique of the industry which lacked self-awareness itself. And don't assume I hate rock or country rock fusion. There's some excellent projects if you look around, and I literally spent the first few minutes praising the record. Stop assuming if I criticize something it means I hate it. If you only care for how catchy the album is, then yeah, it's definitely going to land for you there. Hardy does good hooks, and it's possibly some of Joey Moy's best rock production to date. I can't really pinpoint any concrete feelings exactly. So for now, I'm just gonna go with a strong 6 out of 10 for Mockingbird and the Crow. Maybe it'll go lower, maybe higher, it's hard to say. I do recommend it for its great elements and hope for a more well-realized package in the future. But for now, thanks for watching, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you around.